title, Grace, is Fitness Instructor and Coordinator.
Yes.
Tell us what that means.
So, an overview of what I do. So I lead most of the exercise classes here, and then I also do some of the scheduling, and I work on the fitness calendar in independent living, and I also go over to the health center and I teach classes there as well, about twice a week. So that's the overview of what I do. I teach the pool class, balance and strength, resistance bands, chair yoga, and I lead walks 3 times a week, outside or inside. It's a very casual walk, but some people just want to go out, have a nice social chat, and yeah. And then I go in the health center and I do my own programming there that's a little more unique to the needs of the residents on that side.
One of the things, Grace, that when I was asked to do this and started looking at it, I went to the calendar, and this is the list of what Gracie does here. She does the water exercise 3 times a week. She does balance and strength several times a week. She does seated strength with bands. She does chair yoga and balance. She does the walks. She takes hikes and targets outdoor activities. She does the fitness room workshops, and she does work with the health center. I don't know.
And I like a challenge, so it's exciting, but
What things do you see as being a benefit going forward in what you do if cost was no issue?
yeah, if cost was no issue. So I think the one thing, and this is something I've thought about in the future, maybe like 5 years from now, maybe. It's a big project, it's construction, but I do think that they would need to expand the fitness center, 100%. It's small, which is okay, and I feel like it's a little too small for the needs of future residents moving in. I think younger generations typically tend to be a little more active, and even when there's a couple people in there, which is great, it gets crowded fast. And I think they should do a little bit of an expansion on the fitness center. I think a lot of people would feel more inclined to use it throughout the day. So I think that would be nice.
They just renovated or upgraded some of the equipment. Tell us
Yes.
what that is all about.
Yeah, so the cardiovascular equipment in there, so the bicycle, the treadmill and elliptical, we have got, those 3 are brand new now. The machines that were here prior, some of them were here for, I've heard, 13 years. So we just needed new equipment, and the treadmill did not work at all at one point, so we were very eager to get a new one. And I have, in this past month, I've had 2 workshops where I demonstrated how to use the new machine specifically, and I thought they were very successful. I was happy to see so many people in that room wanting to learn, and the new machines are great. I've used them a couple times myself. They really are good, and they're easy to use.
Yakov's question, or his comment, was about our sound system upgrade. Where we are, I've talked about it in a few management Q&As. Right now, where we stand, you can see in the ceiling, there's the red around these microphones, there's the green around those microphones. That camera that's in the back, that's an upgraded camera, so that is working fine. That's a new camera. The camera's not the issue. It's these microphones that they put in the ceiling. I don't have a good answer now either. The company that installed the equipment is a long-standing company with Woodland Pond. They installed our projector, our screen, that black box on the wall panel over there, everything in the classroom. They've done everything in the dining room, the game room. They've been with us for a while. Originally we asked for a sound upgrade for our stream for when we record musical performances like the Dulcimers or Pondeliers or any kind of music concert. We asked for an upgrade, and they came in, they quoted us on this, and they said that this would work for us. It doesn't work. They've been back a few times, they've turned the microphones off, they've tried different things, and it is not working.
So this is in the works.
Something's in the works. I don't know where they are now. I've gone back to them a few times. Yeah. The most fun, the residents, but every day is always something different. I mean, some people at Woodland Pond will come in, sit at their desk, and they'll do the same thing every day. And I couldn't do that myself. I don't like staying at my desk all day. The funnest part is getting out and seeing the residents and, you know, I don't know, talking. Like I talked to Virginia Cannon about her trip to Buffalo. I'll talk to, you know, anybody. You know, I talk to Wayne all the time. You know, whoever I see, Mr. Hoffman. Yeah. You know, Joan will come and grumble about her computer, and even though I know she's dead, I know it's
He
you know,
bought it.
right. So it's just talking with the residents is
Yeah. Now, as you know, I mean, I have been involved talking about your job. I mean, what are the things that people should come to you or to your group, basically, the three different groups that you had, and what should the things that they shouldn't? They should go to somebody else. I mean, in general terms. I know the concierge is at the Grand Central. I mean,
Yeah.
everybody can go to the
That's-
concierge and find out and answer.
I don't know. That's a hard question to answer because if you were to catch me in the hallway, of course I'm going to stop and listen. I don't know. I would say if you have any questions about anything, to go to the concierge desk. But if you catch me in the hallway, you can ask me almost anything, and I'll direct you in the right direction. You know, I'm not the type that's going to say, you know, don't tell me, go tell someone else. Because you know, I want to help. I'm here to help. So I don't know. That's a hard question to answer. Because I want, if there's something on someone's mind and they feel like where they go, if they're going to go to the concierge desk and nothing's going to get done, just come to me and I'll see what I can do to help.
That was my worry.
Yeah.
That's why I asked you the question, because I know that, I mean, you are always super responsive, I mean, no matter what people ask you. But, you know, if somebody has a problem with their garden,
I've instituted pre and post production sheets. The waste is, there's really none.
And you have the amount of stuff thrown away that is composted
Right.
diminished?
We did the reach, well, that's the thing, our composting numbers are very low, and I said, good, I'm happy. Because we're not throwing away the food. As long as I did a retraining on the composting also, because I guess the staff, they like to once in a while throw a butter pat in there, things like that, because if you put all that stuff on your plates, think about that, and they're just scraping, sometimes a butter pat gets in there, and we were getting like nasty grams from the composting company because of this reason.
Setting the plastic in around it.
Yes.
Butter that.
So so I retrained the staff, but the attitude was because we were getting nasty grams, let's not compost at all. So I get it, you know, but it's unacceptable. So now we trained, we retrained, and we're composting. But we're also, that's why a lot of people don't like the reservation system, but the reservation system makes me be able to control food production. I know exactly how many people max will my dining room fill, and I will never overproduce, and it will eliminate waste. And that's the biggest, you know,
And the result has been what?
it's been excellent. We've reduced waste, and then we're also reusing things. So if something is, they used to prep in large batches and reheat. Once you reheat, there's standards. So in a kitchen like this, we are run like a health center. Once there's a reheat, that cannot be reused. So they were reheating in large batches. So now we've minimized the batches. There's small batching everything out. So it's not a reheat, so they get the 3 days out of it. So there was a lot of education on the cooks, you know, side. And the biggest thing is just getting them to excited about cooking again. When you go into the field that we're in, you have to love it. Like I don't know any cooks or chefs or people who go into that field and don't love to cook. So it's getting, you know, through COVID times, everyone became very complacent, and I'm just trying to get my chefs excited about cooking again.
And he is.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're also instituted that Simply to Go. That's in the pub. There's that open cooler across from the coffee station, and in there is items that you can purchase. What those items are is, we do a lot of room service and takeout. We usually make 2 to 3 extra of each item for takeout.
I absolutely love it here. Could never imagine, you know, leaving or going anywhere else. I live in Marlboro with my husband and my 4 children. Actually, I always lived locally. I ended up graduating from Marlboro High School as he did, and we have our house and our kids, and I don't see myself moving anytime soon from the area as well. When I started off here,
I actually had, I started off as a marketing coordinator position. There was a different marketing firm that was not, it was contracted in with Woodland Pond that managed the marketing office, and the marketing director was on site maybe 3 to 4 times a month or so. There were a couple of seasonal salespeople that worked here, and 6 months after I started, they wanted to move me into doing sales. So I was a little bit, caught off guard here. I've never sold anything before. Prior to Woodland Pond, I actually worked in real estate and insurance, but in the back, office end, managing the office and everything prior to and after the sale, not the actual selling part. So I was definitely a little bit nervous about doing that, but this is not a true sales position. I mean, it is, but it's telling Woodland Pond's story. It's needs matching and getting people to understand what life is like here, what's involved in moving here, helping them make their decisions.
You did the research.
I did. So I started digging through all of our active leads recently to kind of prep for some questions that you might have for me today. Right now we have about 2,000 active leads in our database. And these are people that are currently still interested in us, not just someone that has contacted us and said, this is not for me, or I can't afford it, or whatever the case is. These are people that are still actively thinking about it. About 15% of them, about 12% are from New Paltz, Highland, Gardner area, so our immediate local areas, only 12% of them. About 15% are the larger local cities, Kingston, Poughkeepsie, included Middletown, Newburgh. So we are, a mix of Dutchess, Ulster, and Orange County. About 15% were New York City. Overall, about 75% are New York State. So generally, the local counties around us, and then a few random out of state. We have a lot of Florida, which is probably our second most common state here, and then New York, Connecticut, Pennsylvania. Typically, if you're not from the state, there's something that draws you back to this area. Either children, or you used to live here, or there's a weekender here, something in that sense. Resident referrals are always our biggest source of, hearing about us. Of course, if their friends live here, they want to, they're interested, they want to come in and take a tour. We also advertise, we do print advertising in some local magazines. We do a lot of digital and online advertising as well. We try to capture people from all over the place, not just, our local surrounding areas. There's a lot of interesting digital options that you can do to kind of capture people. There's device ID, there's targeting, there's all sorts of things. So if somebody has a cell phone or some kind of a laptop, some kind of a device, and they walk into certain places, if they search for different things on their on their internet browser, we can pop up and kind of get in front of everyone. And obviously, it's kind of weird, but a lot of places do that sort of things now. You'll find if you're talking about something in front of your cell phone, it might pop up because your phone listens to you. All sorts of.
that happens.
Yeah.
How many of you have been there to the what is it called?
Which,
The Harriman Estate. It's got a Columbia.
Conical, what are you talking about?
No, a Harriman.
The Harriman Estate up at the top of the mountain. Okay, you haven't been there. It's the former governor's mansion, and it is, robber baron heaven. It looks like some French chateau. And Columbia owned it at the time, so you could rent it for good purposes.
The Columbia University, that's right in the middle of the park. I've been there.
Right. I think they've now sold it and it's owned by something not so worthy. But I treated these grantees from all over the 5 boroughs to these baronial dinners with the trustees. And we instituted a requirement that every trustee of the foundation had to visit a grantee at least once a year. But certainly in the few times that I actually talked to people about their CCRCs, I think Woodland Pond really is quite unusual in the amount of interplay that there is between management and residents, and the amount of actual power that residents have, although we don't use that word. Talking about power is a difficult conversation in America these days. And it's particularly difficult in a place like this where people I think many people operate under fear of the administration, whether they admit it or not. And I know that's why Michelle is constantly saying, you can talk to me, you can come into my office, you can make an appointment, you can call me, you can email me, it's okay. Because I think people feel vulnerable when they come here, and they don't always get over that.
You had said to me that a particular interest of yours these days is about the other.
Yeah.
Take it away.
Okay, this arose from more than one conversation that I've had with people here who say somebody new is, you know, really nice, but she's a Trumper, and I don't want to have dinner with her.
Yeah.
And each time, I'm afraid, I respond with this granny kind of lecture about that's exactly what the problem is in the country at large. Nobody talks across that gulf anymore. Well, what am I going to say? They're just going to say this, and then I'm going to tell them they're wrong or whatever. I said, no, the secret is to listen, not to talk. But unless we practice doing that, unless we practice sitting down and breaking bread with people who do not agree with us, we are simply doing what the entire country is doing, which is casting people into roles when we really know very little about what they think. Listening, not arguing, finding a way to hear what the other person is saying. And if we can't do that here, then where could it happen? We share most of the...
As Tamar said, it's not here's a cookie, enjoy your life kind of committee. We do a tremendous number of things that would not be apparent unless you were welcomed by the Welcome Committee, which all of you have been, and our viewing audience has all come through the Welcome Committee. It's very different living in your own home and moving into a community of almost 300 people. The procedures and the routines are not intuitive. There's something that you need guidance in moving through, and that's where the mentor comes in. We have a mission statement, very short, which I'll read to you. The purpose of the Woodland Pond Welcome Committee is to assist new residents in making a smooth, orderly, and comfortable transition to their new home. To accomplish this, new residents are assigned a personal mentor who will provide information and orientation to Woodland Pond. New residents are encouraged to seek informational assistance from their mentors. Confidentiality, approved by the Residents' Council in 2018, is a primary component of this place where if you didn't have procedures and rules, you couldn't run a place like this. I came from a co-op and we did have rules, so I was somewhat used to it, but sometimes a new resident will say, if we haven't gotten to it, oh, I didn't know that, you know, and as one of our new residents said, you can't know what you don't know. It comes up over time, very much so. One of the things that the council did last year was implement a new pet policy, and that of course affects new residents. Pet policy, where you can take pets and where pets aren't allowed.
Before it was less structured, more of a free-for-all, take your pet anywhere.
I won't say a free-for-all, but what's close to a free-for-all? What? It was take your pet anyway, and the council.
It's your pet, do what you want. Yeah.
Because we are a committee, we don't make any kind of rules or procedures in the Welcome Committee, but we can make recommendations to management based on things we see and things we hear. It's important for us in the move-in to tell people how to use maintenance, that they can get 2 hours of free maintenance to hang pictures. It's important for us to tell them there's no tipping, sooner or later Suzanne and the Roval Committee will get to them about that. We're big into waste disposal and composting here, and that is not something we do in the first meeting with somebody. Oh, let me talk to you about garbage. No, we don't do that. But we do show them where the trash rooms are. Many people come here with a lot of art, and they don't know what to do with it. Well, come to the right place, because we have a committee that will help them take their art, hang their art around the community, and that's really something that they appreciate. Let's see, there's something else.
Abstract and distant and up in a castle somewhere. Poetry is waking up in the morning and looking around and observing what the world is like. That's poetry. It does not have to be grandiose. It does not have to be big. And Shakespeare wrote magnificent poetry, but he wrote of his time. He wrote how people spoke in that time, which is absolutely different from now, right?
You began writing fiction when you were very small, seven years old.
Yes. I was a middle child and invisible, as you may have imagined. If any of you are little children, you'll know what I mean. So I would sit on the front step with a pencil and a pad, and I decided I would write a novel. But it was very boring, and I wrote about 3 or 4 pages, and then I realized, no, this takes too long. So I wrote a little poem, and I said, that's much better. So that's what I did thereafter.
Yes, at 10 years old, you wrote poetry.
Yeah, I've been writing.
Never looked back.
Never looked back. I've been writing poetry since 10 years old. Yeah.
Okay. Looking at, you had so many different careers in your life, and when you were married an ocean.
Put the mic.
You married an ocean lifeguard.
I lived on boats. I've lived next to the sea. There's something about the ocean that I find very important. The flow, the ebb and the flow of the ocean is so beautiful. It's like music to me. So that's where I've lived a lot of my time, yes.
Yeah, talking about music, you said that you use music all the time in your life, but especially writing your poetry.
I listen to music a lot. I like blues, I like jazz, I like classical music. I like whatever appeals to my ear. I've gone to Carnegie Hall to concerts, and I have sat on the street corner in Greenwich Village and listened to concerts, both equally weighted and equally beautiful.
Now, you had this incredible career as a registered nurse.
Yes, I did.
Yeah, which is just astounding. That's a big study.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a quick thing to become a registered nurse.
Well, I became a nurse at the age of 35 because New York State at that time was in desperate need of nurses, similar to what's happening now. And if you could complete the course at Nassau County Community College, you would get a registered nurse degree if you took all the required courses and all the college courses, and I knew I could do it. I had twins, so I didn't have an older child and a younger child in the house. They were equal, and they dealt with it themselves. One is a son and one is a daughter.
Thanks, that really is a wonderful way even to talk about committees and committee formations, because even though we are here and we look to management for a lot of guidance, we ourselves are the problem solvers here in many situations. And it's just proof that we've got talent out there that needs to be motivated. Thank you and you do other things for us, as I understand, yoga, and square dancing, and fondoliers, and etc.
Yeah, a lot of that stuff.
How about the pollinator issue? Are you finding ways to encourage pollinator plantings?
Yes, usually that discussion comes up. People ask whether or not we're going to emphasize native plantings
Yes.
over imported plantings. And that's a really loaded question, unfortunately. There are certain things that we are doing. We are doing more perennial flowers than we did in the past, and that's good for the pollinators, and everybody loves flowers, so that's a win-win situation. But whether we get into all native plantings is very difficult, because unfortunately, gardeners and horticulturalists have been swapping plants across oceans, rivers, and continents for hundreds of years. And if we wanted to eliminate everything except native plants on our campus, we would have to give up roses, forsythia, daffodils, tulips, peonies, ad nauseam. Unfortunately, we would end up with a campus filled entirely with maple trees, oak trees, and Joe Pye weed. And that's not, I think, anyone's idea of a beautiful campus.
Right. And one of the things I was interested to see as I walked around when I first came here is that there have been plantings of native things throughout the original choices, which surprised me.
Yeah, we encourage